welcome back to KI-Camp 2021. I hope you had some interesting and very inspiring sessions. Next to me is Fridtjof Nagel from the German Informatics Society, who will be the host for our next panel today. But before, I want to share one impression with you from our sessions, because I was able to watch the session Democracy and AI, and there I heard something which is, I think, relevant for a lot of fields in AI, which is AI is overrated in the short-term risks, but underestimated how much AI will affect people's lives on the long run. So this made me think a lot, but in case you, and I'm sure you could not watch every single session, if you missed something, we will have a digital documentation afterwards of our highlights on our website in May. KICamp.org is our website. And now we are starting our next panel by Fridtjof Nagel, Head of Policy and Communication at the German Informatics Society. And he will talk about the future of AI research in Germany. And he has 4 wonderful guests he will now introduce to you. And for sure, you can participate in the conversation as well. We have the chat for you available, so please send a lot of questions to our next panel.
Well, thank you, Teresa, and welcome to our panel discussion on the future of AI research in Germany. Yeah, together with you, I want to take a look at the opportunities and the challenges that lie ahead, and of course the strategies that need to be put in place to make Germany a sustainable and competitive research location. But in doing so, we especially want to focus on the perspective of the young generation of researchers and speak with those who are already shaping AI research today and will continue to do so in the future. Yeah, but taking a look into the future is definitely not a simple thing to do. It requires both expertise and different perspectives. So I'm very glad that we have both aspects represented in our panel today, and that we won 4 great guests from academia, from politics and business to help us doing so. But as Teresa already said, these 4 are not the only ones who will have the opportunity to contribute to this discussion over the next 45 minutes. We also want to hear from you, the audience, because statistically speaking, it's very likely with hundreds of viewers in the audience that we have at least as much expertise sitting in front of the screen right now as we have in our virtual panel, and we want to benefit from that. So please contribute to the discussion via chat with your remarks and questions. But make sure to write down the name of the person your question is addressing. That would help me a lot in the discussion. I will not be able to forward every question to our panelists, but at least some of them. That would be great. And now I'm looking forward to our 4 guests. Our first you have already met at the opening of the KI Camp. She's a well-established researcher until 2019. She was a professor for quality engineering of open distributed systems at the TU Berlin, head of the Fraunhofer Institute for Open Communication Systems, and the founding director, one of the founding directors of the Weizenbaum Institute for the Network Society. And in 2019, she switched into public office as, sorry, it's a very long title, Director General for Research for Technological Sovereignty and Innovation at the Federal Ministry of Education and Research. I hope I got that right. Thank you for joining us again, Ina Schieferdecker. Thank you for being here. Our second guest is a doctoral student and a media scholar at the Karlsruhe University of the Arts and Design. There she coordinates a research group, Artificial Intelligence and Media Philosophy. She has presented her work nationally and internationally, for example, at Ars Electronica, Transmediale, the Shanghai Ming Contemporary Art Museum, and many, many more. And in a few hours, she will be awarded the AI Newcomer Award by the German Informatics Society as one of 10 outstanding young researchers in Germany. Thank you for being here, Ariana Dongus. I'm very glad you could join. The next person I want to introduce to you is a senior manager for robotics and artificial intelligence. You might also know her as an outspoken and awarded diversity advocate. In 2020, she published her first book, Keine Panik ist nur Technik, translates to Don't Panic, It's Only Technology, in which she explains artificial intelligence to the public and pleads for a more diverse AI development. Joining us today is Kenza Abbou Lyadini. Kenza, thank you so much for being here with us. And finally, our fourth guest is a postdoc researcher in robotic software engineering at the University of York. He's a member of the Young Researchers Advisory Board of the German Informatics Society, where he co-authored a positioning paper dealing with the conditions under which young scientists research. We'll certainly come back to this later in the discussion and hear more about that. For now, thank you for joining us, Mario Gleischer. I hope you can all hear me. And I can hear you. I see nodding heads. That's great. Great start. My first question to you, Ina Schieferdecker. As I said in your introduction, you headed various research institutions and accompanied many young researchers over their careers, over the years. If you compare their career path and conditions under which they work and research today to the ones you started your career in, are they different? And to what extent are they different?
Well, thank you for that question. I think it's very different. Back then, computer science evolved over the years into a discipline in its own right. I mean, I'm Berliner, and I studied at Hamburg University, others at Free, and the third at technical universities. And these together made already all the sources of computer science, so more the mathematical oriented computer science. Then we had the engineering path, and already back then the societal path. And excuse me if you know better the real story behind the Berlin universities and computer science. But to make it easy, one could say 3 universities, also 3 disciplines. And now computer science is one in its own. And with respect to the KI camp that we talk about here today, we have a strong research landscape in Germany. We have, for example, 6 AI competence centers already in 1988, the DFKI, the German Research Center for AI, has been created. So it's over 30 years already old now. Newcomers have been created in different regions in Germany. And of course, there are a lot more professorships in AI. And also, society and industry are a lot more acquainted with AI, so that it's easier to move back and forth between research and industry or research and politics, as I did it now in my career. So there's a lot to do, and a lot of options are at hand. And in fact, I think the teaching is a lot better because it's clear what needs to be taught, and you get along your career a lot things at hand which help to find your own right way through the complex matter, as I would say.
Thank you very much. Mario, you co-authored a positioning paper of the young scientists of the German Informatics Society, and in it you draw attention to precarious conditions in computer science research, and at the same time computer science research in Germany is very well equipped compared to other disciplines. How does that fit together?
Yeah, hello everyone. Thanks for inviting me as a representative of the advisory board for young scientists of the GE. Well, thanks for the question, Fridtjof. I think it's true. Computer science, AI are comparatively well funded, and so more money is always good, of course. But let me state it like this: a good oven cannot be made more efficient by firing more wood. We, in this position paper, try to hint at a few points where we think there's room for improvement, particularly in the funding structure, in the way how funding is used. And that boils down to faster qualification pathways, better working conditions, particularly in the stage of the PhD. And wider career perspectives, like separation of teaching and research, maybe further opportunities for group leaders. And there are a host of suggestions we'd like to make.
Thank you very much for this insight. Ariana, you research AI as in an art university and from the perspective of media philosophy. So you have a complete different background than everybody else here in this panel. How do you view AI research in Germany? What contribution can the humanities make to AI research, which is still heavily influenced by computer science?
Yes, thanks for the question and thanks for the nice invite. Yeah, indeed, coming from a University of Arts and Design in Karlsruhe, so a university that is notoriously known for collaborative projects to bring people together that work in design and theory and art. For me, my perspective is very much this idea of working together throughout different disciplines, coming together. And this is also what we do at our research group, the KIM that you already introduced so kindly, that we really try to study new technological forms, the new media, if you wish, which is, or in which AI plays a very, very central role. And I think in order to really tackle both, as well the potentialities, but also the limits and dangers of this new AI paradigm, I really think this diverse, interdisciplinary, collaborative approach really help us to tackle these big problems. As we know, AI is really fundamentally changing the way society is organized, how we communicate, how we work, how we interact. So I really see that there's new funding opportunities for exactly these collaborative projects that bring different disciplines together, but I still think it is too much of a niche thing. I would really like to see much more interactions between computer science, informatics, the humanities, the social science, as well as the art and humanities at large. So this would be my very specific perspective, and I believe, if we combine a variety of knowledge and of knowledge cultures, of understanding and perceiving, of analyzing the social realities around us, we could really make a difference and help understand what we're actually doing there with these new machines, with these new technologies.
Do you sometimes envy the working and researching conditions of the computer science and the humanities?
Yeah, in a way, of course, it would be very nice to have this idea of, let's say, the emergence of new programs and institutions that are truly interdisciplinary on a long term, that are sustainable, that they become the new normal. That would be very nice. But for that, we don't only need more funding, as Mario already said. We need a structural change. We need a transformation in how we think about industry, academia, and research at large. So there's half of an envy maybe, but also, yeah, the quest for maybe a bit of a transformation here.
Kenza, you work in AI development in a large telecommunications company, and time and time again, research in companies is seen as attractive and even sometimes overpowering as a competitor to research at universities, not only when it comes to paychecks, but also in regards to the working conditions. Do you see it the same way? Are you on the brighter side of research in AI?
Oh, difficult question. Brighter side. Let me see. We're probably on the dark side. No, I mean, I absolutely agree. There is a difference in the paychecks. So to make it very simple, and this results in a lot of brain drain, and especially to the big tech companies. And overseas, so this is a problem that we absolutely have. But I think we should think about the difference in research. In the corporate world, you don't do any fundamental research; it's very applied. So depending on the interests of the individuals. Obviously, if you want to do research for life because you're just curious and you're always seeking for the big next thing, then academia is probably more appropriate. And if you want to work more on applied research, so it's very near to the products, near to the services that the companies offer. then the corporate goods or the industry in general is more appropriate. So it also depends really on the interests of the individuals, I would say. And what I really like also is that the new generations, probably it's just my naive feeling, but I do have the feeling that they look less at the money, but more on the total conditions and the whole infrastructure and environment, let's say. So this is my hope, to keep some of the intelligent people in Europe and on German on German land, and not having everybody cross the Atlantic.
Well, thank you. Yes, we will address the brain drain later, I think, in the panel discussion again. But let us dig into the challenges a little bit more that researchers face today. And since we have many researchers here in the audience, let me ask you, the viewers, in your opinion, what is the greatest disadvantages or challenges in Germany as an AI research location? If you had to break it down in one word, I think you will have now a little text field where you can type in your answer. At least hope so, and I hope that I can see it as well. I see nothing on my screen, but the production tells me that will shortly come. Now, while you, as the viewers, think about what are the great challenges, I want to come back to you, Ina Schieferdecker. Germany, as an AI research location, has been criticized in the past, for example, for having too strict data protection laws and too little available data, too slow internet connections, or too much concentration on fundamental AI research and too poor of a transfer from research to application and into business models and startups. Do you actually sometimes find it difficult to promote Germany as an AI research location? And what are the strengths and advantages you cite to convince critics?
Well, yeah, thank you for this question. Good question. Of course, this is all partially true, what you say, but it's also partially true that we are a strong research country, in particular also in AI, along not only the AI strategy of the federal government. It's true that Germany invested since many years into AI. It's true that you can do fundamental research, but also more and more applied research. And we are particularly strong in looking at fundamental issues of AI, like the question how it changes, transforms society. By that, the Weizenbaum Institute has been created in Germany. It was back then the strongly funded research institute worldwide. I mean, there have been numerous research institutes that looked into how digital transformation changes society, not only by AI. It created numerous more institutes in the federal system of Germany. So we see that in pure numbers, Germany is still or is the fifth country with publication in international comparison on AI. We have really numerous researchers in the field. We have set trends, or they have set trends from Germany. So, for example, on kernel-based learning or on big data stream processing, on brain-computer interface, on machine learning for quantum chemistry, but also you may say, well, these are all technical things and Germany is strong in technology, but it's also about explainable AI. It's also about trustworthy AI. It's about the question on ethics on AI. So it's a lot more than that. And now the AI strategy has been developed. It puts even more focal points on those fundamental issues like trustworthiness, security, safety of AI-based systems, or one could even certify AI, because it's very, very important that depending on the criticality of an AI-based system, we take the right means to secure those solutions. So, and getting back to the discussion on data, which is simply one of the preconditions for doing good AI applications, the country invests in strong data infrastructures, in particular also on the science side. There at the National Research Data Infrastructure Initiative, NFDI, which allows to bring even more data to the researchers for their own research. And we will start hopefully soon even more projects which interconnect NFDI with Gaia-X, which is the industrial initiative to make available data also to AI applications from the industry. And of course, it needs to come together, because science data is as important to industry data as the other way around, and I can extend towards the governmental data. So if we make the infrastructures interoperable, I think, will see even more creative AI solutions. So there is a lot of good things, and of course you can always improve on the not so good things as well.
So there's some catching up to do, maybe, to some extent. Ariana, you had a question. Did I see that right? No? I thought you raised your hand. But let's have a look at our word cloud. So we see some, let's say, maybe particularly German problems. German bureaucracy is one of the terms. And also funding seems still be an issue. For example, in the humanities, and also in comparison to other nations as the US. Mario, you researched abroad, you're still researching abroad in the UK, and before that you worked in Munich. How do the conditions in the UK differ from those in Germany, and where do you see the strengths of Germany as a research location?
Yeah, thank you very much for the question. So first of all, both systems that I was able to learn to know are excellent systems in both in higher education as well as in world-class and world-leading research. And yet, I think it's always they do have different focal points, different strategies, and when you get to know them, you figure out what these are. And to me, it's important to learn from the differences, to learn from each other's successes. And one thing that I personally, also from the work in the advisory board, took away, and I think it's important to mention, is that the average duration of a PhD project in the STEM sciences in Germany is about 6 years, whereas in structured PhD programs in countries like UK, it goes more down to 3.5 years. So the strength of the German system is definitely it's well funded. There's a lot of opportunities, but yet we can improve the working conditions. Just a quick fact, 9 out of 10 early career researchers in Germany are on fixed-term contracts. And I think Ina and Ariana mentioned we need structural funding to make sure that we have the infrastructure to do research on ethical, safe AI. AI that can in the future be the pillar of trustworthy applications. In order to assure that, we need continuity among PhDs and postdocs. Those are the level. Those are those people who currently produce. They are at the heart of the production of new knowledge, and we need to create, first and foremost, good working conditions, attractive working conditions for them. And I have to say, at the moment, we as advisory board, we see a lot of room for improvement there. Yeah.
Mario, are you in exchange with other disciplines on these topics and issues, or is that kind of a standalone computer science view you're representing there?
The advisory board is in more or less loose contact or in regular contact, I have to say, with other networks in Germany. There are, for instance, the Netzwerk für gute Arbeit in der Wissenschaft, and there's also Verdi. There's the Junge Akademie. There are a number of organizations who are aware of the problems there, and who have already worked successful towards improvement. So we are striving and trying to intensify our contacts from the GI perspective with these organizations.
Thank you, Mario. Ariana, the AI Camp or KI Camp is also intended to be a forum for the young AI community to express their needs and wishes in direct dialogue with different stakeholder groups. Which ones do you have? Which wishes towards policymakers or business when it comes to your research and your research situation?
Yeah, thanks for that question. Indeed, very important, and I'm glad I have the opportunity to speak. I can really zustimmen, Mario. I can just applaud him that the situation in the humanities, the social sciences is pretty similar. In short, what I would really like to see is more publicly funded free research that is sustainable, that is committed, that is long-term, that gives us the opportunity to really think through the long-term consequences of AI, to really have as I said, an emergence of the new normal of institutes such as the Weizenbaum we already have in Berlin, but we need more of that. We need a more, to foster a critical agenda that that looks at both the possibilities and at the limits and dangers, and this should become a normal thing. And I really believe we need more to really think about the structural problems that we have in academia and the research landscape at large, because also, yeah, we have big structural problems to tackle with AI, and I believe we could really make a difference here, but we need really committed long-term thinking here, and this would be my biggest wish to the policymakers, that we enable more dedicated research that is really sustainable, and we can also think about to invite different actors outside academia, outside the research landscape to do. I have no problem to work with the industry, not at all, as long as we have a secure basis of free, autonomous scientific research, and then I'm completely happy. But I think there's some way to go.
Thank you for this insight, Kenza. What current trends do you see in AI research, and are there any differences between university research and corporate research? You said corporate research is more looking forward to applications and other, let's say, business models or whatever, but do you see a structural difference as well in the topics they address?
If I may, I would like to say something to Adriana's last sentence. And Ina was raising her hand, so I wonder, Ina, would you like to start, and then I take over?
Well, maybe you start and then
okay.
I'll continue.
Okay, so what I wanted to say, especially Ariana, to you, from my perspective, the industry is also really interested in working more with the academia. And what I have witnessed until now, it usually depends on the people who are responsible of the different projects in the industry. And there are always engaged people, and especially I remember a couple of years ago, my colleague and I did a project with the Weizenbaum Institute. It was Robotics for Kids. We organized these workshops, and these things happen a lot, and many of my colleagues do this together with many organizations, public institutions, and universities. But I don't know if it's a but. It is something positive, in my opinion. It just depends on the individuals. It's not like the structure. There is no law saying we have to do it, and there is probably also no specific strategy pushing us to do it, but different peoples with different responsibilities look forward to this exchange because, like me, many people absolutely believe that we need much more of this. I mean, I'm a vocal in this. We cannot leave only technologists build the AI. This is going to be a big disaster, and many examples of the past show that it is a disaster if you only have computer scientists building a technology. So we absolutely need other skills and from the humanities, because we see it is affecting all our lives, and we technologists don't know how societies work. So we better ask the ones who do know. Ina, please go ahead, and then I go back to my question.
Yeah. Kenza, thank you very much. So I wanted to say everything what Ariana was saying is, so to say, in the focus of the ministry, not only of our ministry, but of the federal government along the AI strategy. So along that, we do sustain the AI research structures, and we sustain AI research that is interdisciplinary, transdisciplinary, which, so to say, looks, so to say, beyond, as I said before, only fundamental technical issues, but on all the line to the change of in society. And there are numerous calls for projects, and they are AI funding really allows us to ask over and over again for new project proposals, and we sustain the AI centers. There has been even, you ask for freedom of science, there has been the Declaration of Bonn, exactly about freedom of science, which has been signed by all European countries. And of course, so to say, the research policy puts triggers into the research landscape, which needs to be taken up by the people, which then do the concrete research. But I think we do our best to support you and all the ones that listen. We have made the AI strategy to be a learning strategy, and you can nicely see how it developed from 2018 to the update in 2020, and it will be even more updated. And it asks already with the 2020 update exactly on the questions, how can AI make change in addressing the issues of the pandemic crisis? It asks for the solutions towards the sustainability transformation. It asks what is the right legal framework for AI solutions, and how we, so to say, make it available to all the social sciences, as said before. So would please, so to say, ask for it even more, because it's important to find the right instruments which make AI research in Germany even better.
Well, thank you. Maybe I would like to pick up on the AI strategy of the German government. Schieferdecker, with the national AI strategy, Germany has outlined how AI research should develop over the next years in today's world, where many things change very drastically within only a few months sometimes. Why is this strategy so important to have, even though it might seem outdated in a few years? Why still work on greater strategies?
Okay. Well, basically, I tried to outline that already. So it gives us, first of all, so to say, a political commitment. It allows us to raise research fundings. It allows us to establish new research structures, and it allows us to provide project calls on specific themes, but it doesn't really give concrete instrument, as I said before, but it, so to say, outlines the main objectives, the target vision, and it allows us to update it really quickly, as I try to explain how it changed from 2018 to 2020, and it will change even more. So it is, as long as we have the political commitment on all levels. It's not only the federal government, but it's also the states which are asked here. So we can even further develop what are the targets of this strategy, and I hope that it continues, that we can prepare from a research point of view, a fact-based approach towards AI-based solutions which make the changes in society. So thinking from the challenges in society, so to say, developing backwards what is needed research-wise, and that is only possible across different disciplines with different perspectives, with a rather diverse approach towards research.
So it's an evolving and adapting strategy.
Absolutely.
Kenza, when we talk about what topics are being researched, we should also talk about who they are being researched by, and the word also came up in the word cloud diversity. And here we see that AI research is anything but diverse. It's heavily dominated by men. I think at 12%, the proportion of women in AI research even lower than in computer science overall, and the proportion of people of color is even much lower. And little is known about the equal opportunity criteria, whether, for example, many first-generation academics are involved in AI research. You want to change that. And do you see there any progress in the path to more diversity here in Germany?
Yeah, I mean, the numbers you mentioned are based on the American big tech. I mean, as far as I know, the AI now, the organization has made up the reports, and they analyze the American big tech companies. I don't know how bad we are in Germany. I hope the situation is a little bit better. So since I don't have the statistics, I cannot use any figures to say that we are doing better, that there has been an improvement in the last 2 years. I think the improvement is rather happening in the awareness of the importance of diverse teams. And this is a good thing, because this is the starting point. You have to be aware that the teams are very homogeneous, and that we can now allow that to stay like this, because AI is not just one technology, but it is one that is changing all our life. So it has to have all perspectives. And for that to happen, we need a diverse environment in the development teams. So, long story short, I try to change that in just being vocal and raising the awareness about the topic, and challenging my environment, also my working environment, and particularly here, I must say, our gender. So my working environment is quite, well, we definitely have more than 12% in the AI field, in the AI development, when it comes to gender diversity. Of course, other aspects are probably less present. The good news also is that we are working with more psychologists and linguists. And this is something that we have to thank the chatbots for. And although many people still don't say chatbots are AI, but I mean, it's NLP based, and NLP is one of the methodologies. And there we have understood long time ago that you cannot have a computer scientist write dialogues for chatbots, and it makes much more sense to have a linguist write the dialogues. So this is where the interdisciplinarity is getting normal, really. So in the chatbot development area or NLP area, it's very normal to work with linguists and with psychologists in the human-machine interaction. And this is a good start because I do believe that the computer scientists and data scientists see the benefits of working with these two disciplines. And I wish for more diversifying the skills towards sociology and anthropology. So right now it's still, when I say this in an industry environment, it sounds like, oh yeah, she's getting nuts. But in a couple of years, I hope it's going to be normal.
Mm-hmm. Can I a quick follow up on that because we have a question from the audience, and it's can AI be a driving force for increasing diversity and equality, or is it in principle by design following the inequality of existing conditions, if you want? So what's your take on that? Do you think AI can be a game changer when it comes to diversity in other contexts?
Well, we have. Is the question directed to me? I'm just answering. Okay, yeah. I mean, there is the big topic bias AI, and so I guess the question comes in that context, and it is always important to know the data that you're working with. And I mean, data scientists are already familiar with identifying biases in the data, but until now, it's more like mathematical bias, let's say, or they're looking for correlations that are not very, that don't make sense. And now we have to extend that to looking for biases that are culturally there or historically or socially discriminating parts of the society. So the diversity aspects. So if we have diverse teams, we have different perspectives, and it is easier to detect unconscious bias in data sets, in the models, in the way you program the algorithms. If the teams are very homogeneous, it is more difficult. So you have to train the whole teams in unconscious bias, in really detecting unconscious bias. And you can even use the AI to identify bias in the data. So you can use the same technology to identify bias in the data, make it transparent, and then correct it. It is just more effort. It's an additional effort that costs additional money. So you have to really be willing to do it. It doesn't happen just by itself. So technology is not neutral because technology is done by humans. So it is as humans.
Yeah, thank you for this remark. Mario, on the path to more diversity, the responsibility lies in particular with those who are actually benefiting from the system right now. And as a man, I'm sorry to say, and a computer scientist, you are more or less the typical computer or like AI researcher. So that's my question. What contribution can you and should you as a man make towards more diversity?
Thanks for the question. So first of all, I like Kenza's last statement that that technology is made by humans, and well, we know that at least from the advisory board or from literally the Bundesbericht Wissenschaftlicher Nachwuchs 2021 and 2017, we know that there are in the STEM sciences the fraction of females in habilitations and tenure track professorships and junior professorships ranges from just 7 to up to 25%. So there's quite some room for improvement. What can we do against that situation? Well, coming back to humans create technology, it's important that we start at schools, just raising awareness that there are non-technical topics, there are so many extremely interesting topics that that need to be taken responsibility of. For instance, how can we assure that AI is safe? How can we assure that it's fair, that it's morally viable, that it's social? These are all topics that everyone is interested in. So are, of course, female teenagers, female students. And we need to explicitly motivate these students and teenagers to follow that career path. We know from the UK there are studies that show that actually there's a decline in women studying computer science, despite the programs that have been driven in the past 2 decades. I believe, I don't have a reference, I believe it's similar in Germany. So there's definitely something that we have to improve. So even spend more money into social campaigns, into social media campaigns, into programs that really create incentives for young females to take responsibility of such important topics. I can only say that's what we need to try.
Thank you very much. I'm very, very sorry. We're already like a minute over the time, and we have to be on time. I have to end our discussion here. There are many things left to say, I think, on various topics that we touched. However, I hope that you enjoyed this discussion, and you might continue it on social media under the hashtag KICamp21. Thanks for contributing to this panel with your questions, and special thanks to our 4 panelists.